The insane man who killed a 6-year-old boy in central Kentucky is out of prison after serving less than half his sentence. And hello, everybody. It's our top story here at 5. I'm Connie Leonard.
And I'm Doug Proffitt. The White House has noticed launching its own investigation. What followed were, quote, violent death threats against Kentucky's parole board, even though it voted unanimously to keep Ron Exantus in prison. The board was powerless. Exantus drove to a central Kentucky home, randomly killing 6-year-old Logan and stabbing other members of his family. He was released under state law on mandatory re-entry supervision. Exantus killed Logan in 2015. A jury found that he was not guilty of murder by reason of insanity. He was serving a 20-year sentence for assaults on the boy's family. Ian Hardwick is here now explaining this controversial early release. Ian?
Yes, Exantus shaved some time off his sentence with, quote, good behavior credits while he was in prison. The mandatory reentry supervision program took another 6 months off of that. The new Safer Kentucky Act would have required him to serve at least 85% of 20 years, but Exantus was convicted before that was passed.
He needs to be in an institution. He doesn't need to be out in the streets.
Kentucky House Representative Jason Nemes thinks Ronald Exantus left prison too soon after he admitted to killing 6-year-old Logan in Versailles in 2015.
And then he goes and he stabs his sister, and then he fights and stabs his father as he's leaving.
Exantus only saw 7 years prison time for randomly assaulting family members, although he was sentenced to 20 years. On the murder charge, a jury found him insane and not guilty.
If he was not guilty only because he was insane, he doesn't get to walk. He has to go somewhere. And so that's what keeps our people safe.
He's proposing Logan's Law, which would require people found insane in court to spend time in a mental hospital once out of prison.
You got to be right up here before you can make a good decision. And many people are not right up here.
David Holton, a retired Jefferson County judge, says Kentucky lacks adequate mental health care. He supports keeping Exantus away from the general public, but stood by the jury's decision.
You want your neighbors and your peers to decide your fate, and that's what this country allows. But this is just a situation where there's a loophole and nobody foresaw this potential.
Nemes said under the Safer Kentucky Act, Exantus wouldn't have qualified for the early release program. Instead, it would have required him to spend at least 17 years in prison.
I've contacted the U.S. Attorney's Office. I want them to try him, prosecute him for the murder. We can't do that in Kentucky at the state level because it's a double jeopardy question.
For now, Exantus is out on parole, even though the Kentucky Parole Board voted unanimously that he stay locked away.
Exantus has been released to the state of Florida and must stay there on parole supervision. That supervision ends next year on June 18th. Live in studio, I'm Ian Hardwick for WHAS 11 on your side.